Good morning, Facebook. And so for today's practice, I would really like everyone to have a blanket. Good morning, Bob. Something that you can roll up to put under your heels and under the balls of your feet in a particular moment of practice. So please grab something. It doesn't have to be a towel, would also work. It doesn't have to be large. That you can use. Good morning, Sherry. I'm muting everybody on Zoom. Hi, Janice. Nice to see you guys, or not see you, know that you're there. So as I was just saying, in case you missed it, please have a blanket or something, a towel that you can roll up to put under the balls of your feet and under your heels at a particular moment. And it can also be a pillow that has some density to it, or that you can fold up. Just something for a particular moment in the practice. And then make your way into a good seat. So sitting with the legs crossed or on your heels or in between your heels, or any way that's comfortable. Sitting in a chair at the beginning is also very appropriate. And, oh, good morning, Myrna. I just see that you've arrived. So with your hands, rotate your thighs in. Place your fingertips down on the mat or on the floor beside you, and as you push down with your fingertips, lengthen the sides of the torso and feel the rib cage, the entire span of the rib cage, lift itself up away from the pelvis so that the band of flesh from the top of the pelvis to the bottom of the rib cage slightly lengthens, and there's a lift in the upper part of the torso. Move the head a little bit back, and then keeping the lift in the torso, place the hands lightly up or down on your legs. We're gonna do a forward bend practice this morning, and for some bodies that can be a little tricky. And so I'll talk a little bit more about some of the mechanics of the forward bending practice as we go. My screen is blank. It says on Zoom. I'm going to hope that that returns. Just for a minute, I'll do that. And then I'll redo. See if that makes any difference. So there's a contemporary young poet named Young Pablo, and he writes very short stanzas, and we're going to use one of his very short stanzas for our practice intention this morning. And so it's just 4 words in order, and those 4 words are observe, accept, release, transform. So that's the poem. Observe, accept, release, transform. And the first 3 words in particular we'll highlight during our practice. So we want to cultivate the capacity in our practices, in our yoga practices, to observe what's happening. And that's observing from within, as opposed to observing ourselves as if we're watching ourselves on TV, but observing ourselves from that interior stance. And then to accept the experience that we're having, accept the sensations, to accept the moments of challenge, the moments of ease, and to accept the whole experience without discriminating which ones we accept and which ones we reject. And then from that place of observing the experience and accepting the experience, then we can shift. We can release what's unnecessary, what doesn't serve us in a particular moment, what doesn't serve the pose, what doesn't allow us to accept and observe what's happening. And then transformation is beyond our control. It's the descent of grace. And so if we set up our capacity or work on, cultivate our capacity to observe, accept, and release, then perhaps there's a greater invitation for transformation to happen. So with that in mind, please close your eyes. Bring your attention to your breath. And use your attention on your breath to tune in to the body, to move down and in to the physical experience. And take a moment to observe your body from the inside. Observe your breath. And observe the state that you are arriving on your mat with. And simply observe that. Sometimes it's helpful with observations to describe the state with adjectives, colors, textures. And then from the place of observation, from the seat of observation, accept how you are right now, how the body is, how the breath is, the state with which you are arriving to practice. And with acceptance, if we can fully accept how we are in this moment and the experiences in which we find ourselves, there's a softening and opening. And that softening allows a release. So as you tune in and accept, see if you can release any layers of tension in the belly, across the tops of the shoulders, and in the jaw. Notice how softening the belly, releasing the muscles across the shoulders and relaxing the jaw doesn't change the shape seat. So now just for a moment or two, place one on the torso, one around the navel, one around the chest. And take a couple of slightly deeper breaths. Exhale. And then inhale into the hand and the belly, drawing the belly out into the hand, and then inhale into the chest, lifting the chest into the top hand. Exhale, chest down, belly in. Inhale, belly, chest. Exhale, chest, belly. Observe the breath moving first against the bottom hand, and then against the top hand on the inhale, and away from the top hand and then the bottom hand on the exhale. Observe the breath. Accept the range of motion available in the breath. Release any unnecessary tension one more time through. At the end of your next exhalation, join your hands together at your heart. And to settle our awareness more fully in the body and initiate the space for practice, we'll sound Om together once. Take a full breath in. And gently bow your head to your heart. Release your hands, lift your head, and then come over onto your hands and knees. Perhaps put your blanket across the mat for the knees. And we'll start as we often do, moving the spine in the cat-cow positions. So take a moment to place the hands shoulder distance apart. Evenly spread out the fingers. And press down into the knuckles at the bottom of your index fingers and push into the mounds at the base of the thumbs. Separate the knees hip bone distance apart and let the shins point straight back behind the knees. Tune into the breath. And now as you exhale, tilt the tailbone down. Round your back up toward the sky, let your head hang. As you inhale, lift the tailbone, sway your spine toward the earth, look forward or up slightly. Move like this with the breath. Observing the breath and the movement of the body sinking to the breath. Observe the sensations in the body as the body moves in each position. And accept the movement that's available and appropriate. Accept the sensations. So instead of automatically pushing toward more sensation, the key here is to observe and accept the experience that we're having. And then now for the last couple of times, perhaps, and only if it makes sense, move a little more fully. So with your next breath in, looking forward, and then exhale into a neutral position. From here, we'll do the pointing the opposite leg and arm. So you can tuck your right toes under. That can help with stability. Stretch the left leg straight back behind you. Lift the top of your left thigh up and strongly hug your right hip in. So your hips shift a little bit to the left if you're moving in either direction. Keeping the low belly lifted, bring the right leg to hip height. Observe that experience, accept it, feel into what's happening, and then perhaps from that place of acceptance, if it feels appropriate, stretch the right arm out alongside the right ear. Lengthen through the inside edge of the left leg and reach out through the inside edge of the right arm. Inhale. Exhale, hand and knee down. Pause. Scoop up the low belly so the tailbone tilts slightly toward the backs of the knees. And then extend the right leg back behind you. With the toes on the ground, lift the top of your right thigh up. Hug your left hip in. And then lift the right leg to hip height. Maybe stretch the left arm out alongside the left ear. Breathe. Observe what's happening. So you feel into all of the experiences of the body and the breath in the shape. Accept the movements. Accept the mind's desire to categorize and to evaluate. And then exhale, left hand down, right knee down. You can simply cross the shins and roll over the feet to come onto your back, or in some way make your way down on your back, and perhaps place the blanket folded for behind your head. With the blanket behind the head, scoop the tops of the shoulders underneath. And then we'll pause here. We're going to do the abdominal exercise where we bring the shins parallel to the ground with the knees over the hips. But before we do that, take a moment here and notice the tilt of the pelvis and the lower back curve. So create a little space behind the lower back and the ground. And then keeping that sense of space, knit the muscles of the low belly in toward the midline of the body and down toward the ground. So that's the strip of muscles from the top of the pubic bone to the bottom of the navel. Keeping the low belly down, lift one knee over the hip, shin parallel to the ground, and then the other one. So without tilting the pelvis, so you haven't rolled the sitting bones up toward the sky and pushed the lower back into the ground. With that little space there, soften the shoulders and the jaw. Keep the low belly in. And now maybe put your hands on the center of the legs and lightly push the legs into the hands and the hands back into the legs. You can also just keep your arms at your sides. Couple more breaths. And then exhale, feet on the ground, pause. So again, tuck the tops of the shoulders under, we'll repeat this. Curve the lower back a little bit, so you're not exaggerating the curve, but you're also not minimizing it. Draw the low belly muscles in toward the midline of the body and down toward the ground. And then arms at your sides. Lift the in first, just over the hip. So the thighs are perpendicular to the ground. Bring your shins parallel to the floor. Maybe put your hands on your thighs. And with the hands in the center of the thighs, lightly push the legs into the hands and the hands into the legs. That creates a level of engagement in the muscles, especially around the buttocks. And that can assist in us contacting the lower muscles. Observe. Feel into the sensation. So you move deeper into the experience. Accept any challenge that you might feel here or any ease. And then see if you can release unnecessary tension. So the tops of the shoulders stay soft, jaw soft, face relaxed. And then exhale, bend the knees, place the feet on the ground. Just for a moment, everybody stretch straight. Separate the feet several inches apart and point the feet up so you flex the ankles. Now, strongly push the backs of the thigh bones down so that you have no space between the backs of the thighs and the ground. And notice the degree of curve in the lower back that produces. Really strongly push the backs of the thigh bones down. And observe that one leg generally likes to do this more than the other. And file that information. And then, if you know that your work in Supta Padangusthasana, the supine leg stretch, works to have the left leg straight, then you can do this from here, keeping the left leg straight. Otherwise, bend both legs. Ground. Draw the right knee toward the chest without impacting the space in the lower back. Catch the back of the right thigh. If you have a belt, you could put the belt around the ball of the foot. Then pushing the heel out away from you, stretch the right leg straighter. Really strongly push the right thigh bone into the hands and curve the lower back away from the ground. If your left leg is straight, you're pressing the back of the left thigh to the ground as well. So if your right leg is not yet straight, then I suggest bending it a little bit and pressing it straight. And sometimes that movement can add a little ease to the muscles in the back of the thigh. And if the leg is straight, push the leg into the hand, pressing the sole of the foot toward the sky, and then use your arms to draw the leg in toward you while you resist by pushing the thigh into the hands. One more breath. Exhale, bend, release. Change sides. So if you had the left straight, then extend the right leg straight on the ground. Draw the left knee in, catch the back of the left thigh, or put the belt around the foot. Press the thigh away from you. Your hands if you're holding the back of your leg. And then extend the leg straight-ish. Feel into the sensations in the back of the left thigh and the movement of the breath. Soften in experience so that there's an internal acceptance of the sensations. And if there's not, then adjust in some way that allows you to move toward acceptance. Perhaps bend the left leg and press it straighter. Release tension in the tops of the shoulders and in the face. Maybe if the left leg is straight, draw the leg in toward the torso using the arm so the thigh presses into the hands or away from the body, even as you draw the leg. One more breath. And then bend and release. So I'm into the active range of motion these days, as some of you may realize. So we're going to do that same thing now with no hands or no belt. So left leg straight or left leg bent. And then right leg, draw the knee toward the chest, stretch the right leg straight. Hold it there without using your hands. And bend the knee as much as you need to, especially if there's unnecessary tension in the front of the thigh, being at the top of the leg. Then, with the leg as straight as is available to you, pulse the leg a little toward the torso and back, so that you use the muscles of the leg to draw the leg a little more in. At the same time, press the leg straight. One more pulse. And then bend and release. Change sides, so keep the weight even in the back of the pelvis and a little curve in the lower back. Draw the left leg. Press the left leg straight-ish. Whatever's available to you. From wherever the leg is, stretch it straighter. And that might be your pulse. So straight and bend. Or you might draw it in a little bit toward the torso and back. So we want to have some sensation around the center of the back of the left thigh. One more pulse. And then bend and release. Now we're going to take the leg to the side, so left leg straight or bent. draw the right leg in. Catch the back of the right leg with your hands or put the belt around the bottom of the foot. Stretch the leg straight. As straight as possible. And now, if you're holding the leg with your hands, hold just with your right hand. And if you're holding the belt, hold just with your hand. Put your left hand on your left hip. Sink the left side of the pelvis down to the ground. And turn the right leg out. So the whole leg rotates in the hip socket. Now keeping your left hip on the ground, open your right leg out to the right. And slide your right hand down the leg to hold the outside of the leg with your right hand, or use the belt. Keep the left hip really heavy. Curve the lower back a little away from the ground. Lengthen the inside edge of the right leg from the inner groin to the inner heel. And then observe. Accept the sensations, but release everyone. So if there's tension in the face, perhaps ease off of the pose a little bit so that there's less effort in the right leg. And then keeping the leg strong and straight, inhale, bring it back up. Exhale, bend and release. So if you're doing this with the opposite leg straight, stretch the right leg straight on the ground. Bend the left knee in. Catch the back of the leg on the foot. Stretch the leg straighter. Hold the leg or the belt with just the left hand. Put your right hand on your hip. Now turn the whole leg, the whole left leg out. And then without letting your right hip lift, take the left leg to the left. Slide the left hand down so that you can hold the leg in a way that makes sense. Keep your right hip heavy. Curve the lower back. Feel into the sensations. And as best you can, lengthen on the inside edge of the left leg. From the place of acceptance, there's more fluidity or possibility of fluidity in the breath. And from there we can release muscles in the tops of the shoulders and across the face. One more breath. Now using the strength of the leg mostly, inhale, bring it back up. Exhale, bend. The last one here, same position, no hands. So, left leg straight or bent. Bend the right leg in. Stretch it straight. So this time we're not going to worry so much about turning the leg. Instead, really significantly ground the left hip. Curve the lower back. And now, without using your hands, take the right leg out to the right, keeping the left hip down. Hold the leg, muscles along the outside edge of the leg. So flexing your foot and pulling the baby toe side of the right foot toward the outside of the right knee can be helpful. Firm the outside of the right hip. One more breath. And now using the strength of the leg, inhale, bring it back up. Exhale, bend and release. Second side. So right leg straight or bent. Bring the left leg straight. Flex the foot a little bit. Now really strongly keep the right hip down. And then without changing that, exhale, take the left leg to the left. Really notice what you're doing. Hold the left leg in space. Observe that, really cement that understanding, because when we're going to do something similar standing today, and you'll want to be able to rely on these muscles. Now, using the strength of your left leg, whatever muscles are holding you, inhale, bring the leg up, bend, release. Roll over the right side. Put the blanket to the side for the moment, and then come into either extended child's pose, downward facing dog. So if you're not weight bearing on the hands, then you'll touch the big toes, take the knees apart, sit sit toward the heels. You don't have to touch. You can even come up more on top of the knees if that's a better choice. And then extend the arms forward. Or if you're in downward, if you're able to wait, you're in the hands, take downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, separate the hands, press into the knuckles at the base of the first fingers, the heels of the thumbs. Slightly bend the elbows and turn the triceps toward your face. Is there a question on? Separate the feet well. Bend the right knee. Press the left heel down toward the ground. Bend the left knee. Press the right heel down toward the ground, lengthening the muscles on the back of the right leg. And then do that one more time on each side. So right knee bent, heel down. And then left knee bent, right heel down. If you're in child's pose, come up on hands and knees. If you're in, and then everybody step the right foot all the way upside the right hand, straight leg lunge. So bring your right knee directly over your right heel. Hug your left hip in. Stretch your left leg straight. Breathe. One more breath here. And then either step forward or back to change sides. So perhaps back to downward facing dog or forward into a standing forward bend, and then left foot forward, right foot back. Make sure your front knee is over your front heel. Hug your left hip in, so your left sitting bone stays in line with your left heel. Stretch your right leg really straight. Look more forward. Pushing off with your back foot, step up. Standing forward bend. Everybody bend the knees a little bit. I think somebody's not muted, so I'm just gonna shift that. So from the standing forward bend your knees until your fingertips touch the ground. And then actually from here we're gonna move into chair pose, Utkatasana. So walk your feet right together. Touch the inside edges of the feet. Squeeze your legs together and bend your knees deeply. Put your hands or your elbows on your the bottoms of your thighs for a moment. So now curve the lower back. So you have an arch in your lower back. And then keeping the arch in the lower back, hug the outside of the hips. So right where the legs and the torso meet, squeeze in. And squeeze in so much that you feel the low belly lift, but you still have a curve in your lower back. Now with your hands on your knees, stretch the arms straighter and lift the chest up. So there's a feeling here that every vertebrae of your spine moves into the body, from the back of the body toward the front of the body. Squeeze the legs together, firm, lengthen the whole front line of the torso. So this is actually the first stage of a forward bend with the torso. So now keeping the torso just like this, legs straight. Don't change anything. Squeeze the outer hips in, keep a curve in the lower back, lengthen the front of the body, and then put your hands on your hips, lift your inhale, come up. Exhale, release your arms. Grab your blanket, and depending on your blanket thickness or your towel thickness, fold it up 1 or 2 times so that you can stand on it with the ball of the feet on the blanket and the heels on the ground. So this position gives you a calf stretch. So you want to stand with the feet wide apart, and if the forward bend position, the standing forward bend, is more available in your body, do this with the feet closer together. If it's not so available, take the feet wider apart. So the balls of the feet are really firmly on the height of the blanket, and the heels are making solid contact with the floor. Take the heels out as much as the baby toes. Bend the knees. Hinge from the tops of the legs, fold over, standing forward bend. Touch your fingertips to the ground. Pause. Observe. And observe the placement of the feet. Make sure the heels are out as wide as the baby toes. Make sure that the feet are in firm contact with the height of the roll, and the heels are in contact with the floor. Now, it allows you to tip the pelvis forward over the tops of the thighs so that the lower back has more length and moves slightly in toward the front of the torso as rounding toward the sky. So you just bend your knees enough to have that happen. Then firm the muscles on the outside of the hips, just like in chair pose a moment ago. And now perhaps stretch the legs straighter. As you stretch the legs straighter, push the heels and the balls of the feet down into whatever they're contacting. Keep the outer hips hugging in and the lower back moving in. And stretch the legs straighter, feeling ideally sensations in the middle of the backs of the thighs or along the calves. One more breath. Bend the knees a little bit. Put your hands on your hips, lift your chin. Inhale, come up. Exhale, step off the roll. Turn around. And this time, put the heels on the roll and the balls of the feet on the floor. Separate the feet again, a little wider apart if the standing forward bend is less available, closer together or even right together if your body's more comfortable in the standing forward bend. So with the heels, the center of the heels well supported on the height this time. We're going to fold over a second time. So bend the knees, hinge from the tops of the legs, fold down, tips to the ground. Keep the heels out as wide as the baby toes. Tilt the pelvis over the tops of the thighs so that the whole back folds over the legs and your torso, the front of your torso, comes more in contact with your thighs. Then push the heels a little bit apart, and as you do that, hug the outer hips together. And now stretch the legs straighter. And as you stretch the legs straighter, again, you're wanting to hold the sensation near the center of the thighs, less right behind the knees and less right at the tops of the thighs at the sitting bones. As you observe, accept the sensations, accept what your body is able to do right now, and soften or release as much tension as possible. So exhale, relax the tops of the shoulders. They can even lift a bit toward the ears. Relax the face. One more breath. Bend the knees, put the hands on the hips, lift the chin. Inhale, come up. Exhale, step off of the roll and put the roll to the left. We're going to do one more time as standing forward bend, Uttanasana, without any support, just to see the impact of those previous poses, and then we'll move on to other standing poses. So separate the feet, take the heels out as wide as the baby toes, same principle, wider apart if the forward bend is less available, narrower if it's more. Inhale here. Bend the knees, exhale, tilt the pelvis forward so the lower back curves in and lengthens. Place your fingertips on the ground, release your head. So bend the knees enough that your torso and your thighs come into contact. Push the heels apart. Hug the outer hips in.
Remember, one leg didn't like to touch the ground when we laid down and extended our legs on the floor. So that leg, if you remember, push that heel wider apart and hug that hip in more. Now with the torso over the legs, breathe, and then with the next breath, stretch the legs straighter, pushing the heels apart and keeping the outer hips hugging in. If it's better for your body to pulse, you can bend the knees again and then stretch the legs straighter. So that gives you some relief in sensations if there's sensations when you bend. And then you just momentarily invite a little bit more and then bend so that the body can accept the experience. If you're more able, then you might stay with the legs straight for one more breath. Bending the knees, put the hands on the hips, lift the chin. Inhale, come up. Exhale. Stand with the feet together in the middle of your mat, facing the long end. And then extended side angle. Inhale, step the feet really wide apart or hop the feet apart. Turn the left foot in, rotate the right leg and foot out. Inhale, the arms to the sides, just below shoulder height. Exhale, roll the whole arm so that the palms face up. We haven't done much work in the shoulders, so let's do that. And then keeping that lift from under the armpits to the collarbones and the rotation of the arms, turn only the palms down. Exhale, here, bend your front knee deeply. Put your right forearm on your thigh, your left hand to your hip, or you could automatically take any other variation that works for you. From your left hip, push down into your left heel. Plant your right heel and hug your right hip underneath you so your right knee points over your middle toes. Notice as you do that, the torso shifts back a little bit. Drop your right shoulder blade away from your right ear. Twist the center of the heart and reach up into your left arm if you can stretch it straight with the shoulder joint, being okay with that. Observe the experience. Accept. Release unnecessary effort. And then perhaps from that place of acceptance and observation, perhaps take the right hand down to the inside edge of the right foot. Lift the center of the heart, reach up into the hand, and now pushing into both heels. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, turn the feet, lower the arms. Second side. Right foot in, left leg and foot out. Inhale, the arms to the sides. Exhale, spin at the shoulder joint, rotate the whole arms up, and feel how that lifts from under the armpit up to the collarbone. Here, turn just the palms down. Exhale, bend your left knee deeply, left forearm to your thigh, right hand to your hip. Pause. Observe the body and the shape. And take a full breath in so that there's an acceptance of the shifting into this shape. Push from your right hip into your right heel. Point your left knee straight forward. Hug your left hip underneath you. Lift the center of the heart up and twist the center of the heart a bit to the right. If it works for your right shoulder, now take the right arm straight up, palm faces forward. Soften the tops of the shoulders, the muscles across the face, and maybe take the left hand down to touch inside the left, the right fingertips at the same time. So now wherever you are, into the work in the legs, push into the heels and notice what muscles you're using to inhale, bring yourself up. Exhale, turn the feet, lower the arms, and then inhale, step or hop the feet together. Triangle pose, Trikonasana. Inhale, or hop the feet wide apart. Left foot slightly in, right leg. Bend the right knee, Firm the muscles on the right thigh strongly and press the leg almost straight so it's got a teeny tiny bend, and press into the ball of the right foot as well as the heel. Inhale the arms to the sides. Exhale, rotate the arms up, lift the center of the heart, and then turn just the palms down. Keeping your back heel heavy, lift up a bit on the right side of the torso. And now as you reach out, hug your right hip underneath you. Take your right hand down to your shin or your ankle. You can put your left hand on your hip or stretch it up straight. Push into your back heel. Plant the big toe side of your front foot. Hug your right hip underneath you. So it's the same, it's a very similar shape. Remember when we were lying down on the ground and we took one leg out to the side? Very similar shape here. So now remember what held the leg that was out to the side in place, and activate those same muscles on your right leg. Lift your right hand away from your right leg, hold yourself using your leg muscles, and then inhale, bring yourself up. Exhale, release the arms, turn the feet, and then the second side. So right foot slightly in, rotate the left leg and foot out. Take the arms to the sides. Spin the whole arms up. Turn just the palms down. Lift up a little bit on the left side and then stretch out. As you stretch out, hug your left hip underneath you so your torso leans back a bit. And then left hand down to the shin or ankle, right hand on your hip, or right arm straight up. Push into your back heel. Have a micro bend in your front knee and firm your front thigh. Push into the heel and the ball of the left foot evenly. Now, again, feel into the muscles that held the leg out to the side. So you observed that previously in the pose. And now, activate those same muscles here. If you're doing that well, you don't really need your left hand to hold yourself in position. So taking your left hand off your left leg, push into your heels, inhale, come up. Exhale, turn the feet, lower the arms, inhale, feet together. You want to make sure you're not using the knee joint to bring yourself out of that pose. So I hope you were feeling it somewhere in the muscles of the backs of the legs and the buttocks. So now, moon pose, Ardha Chandrasana. It's a balance pose, but we're going to do it with minimal support from the bottom hand. So inhale, step your feet wide apart. I'm going to inch a little bit to the left side of my mat. Turn your left foot in, rotate your foot out. So we're going to start from triangle pose. So a little micro bend in your right knee. Plant the right heel and the ball of the foot. Take the arms to the sides. Spin the entire arms up. Turn the palms down. Lift up a bit on the right side, reach out, and then down, hold your shin or ankle. Everybody put your left hand on your left hip for this one. Pause. Plant your left heel. Keeping your right foot firmly grounded through the center of the heel and across the ball. Hug your right hip underneath you. Lift the heart. So now, half moon pose. Bend the right knee, pointing your knee over your middle toes, and take a big step in with your left foot. So now you're going to stretch your right hand out, like you were going to put it on the ground a foot away from you, but you're not going to put it on the ground. Lift your left heel, hover on the big toe of your left foot, hug your right hip underneath you, and lift. So you could just stay here, or you can practice lifting your back leg some amount off the ground. Hold the right leg, lift the left leg. So if you can, just bend the right knee, touch the left foot down, step all the way back, reform a version of triangle pose. And then pushing into your heels, inhale. Exhale, turn the feet. And then the other side, I'm just going to move a bit to the side of my mat. You might want to too. So we're really just wanting to find those muscles that are holding us place. It's about being able to execute a full pose, but more about feeling into and observing where we're asking the body to work and where not. So turn the right foot in slightly, right foot out. We'll start in triangle pose. Take the arms to the sides, rotate the whole arms up. Turn the palms down. Reach out and take your left hand to your shin or ankle. Put your right hand on your right hip. Pause there. Observe this. So watch the temptation to already be in the future. And instead feel into this position. So in triangle pose, plant your back heel. Hug your left hip underneath you and push firmly down to the center of the left heel and across the ball of the foot. Keep the heart turning up toward the sky. Now, again, it's just like when you went out to the side with no hands. So step your back foot in. Reach your left hand a little forward, but hover like you're reaching for the ground. And now, standing, stretching your left leg straighter, come to the big toe, just a tip on the big toe of your right foot, and maybe stay there, or maybe consider hovering leg. Hold yourself. One more breath. Possibly bend, touch, back, triangle pose. Stretch the top arm up perhaps, and then pushing into your feet up. Exhale, turn the feet. Inhale, step the feet together. Standing forward bend. Separate the feet some amount. So again, you're going wider if this is less accessible for your body, narrower if you're more comfortable in the forward bend. So inhale here, and then as you exhale, bend the knees a bit, hinge from the tops of the legs all the way over, touch your fingertips to the ground. Make sure your heels are out as wide as the baby toes. Rotate the pelvis over the thigh bones so that your torso really lays against your front leg, and just bend your knees more to make sure that happens. We really don't want to have the lower back curled and curled up toward the sky. We want really the lower back to lengthen over the tops of the thighs. So with the fingertips on the ground, push the heels apart. As you push the heels apart, hug the elbows in. Lift the low belly slightly away from the tops of the legs without changing the positioning of the lower back. Release the head. Observe. So you still have your knees bent, but you're doing the actions. So the actions in the pose are more important than the final positioning of the body. So maintaining the actions, heels apart, outer hips hugging in, low belly lifted, but lower back lengthening to the thighs. Perhaps stretch your legs straighter. One more breath. And then bend the knees, put the hands in the hips, lift the chin. Inhale, come up. Exhale. We're going to do chair pose, Utkatasana. So big toes touch. With the big toes touching, bend the knee. Touch the fingertips to the ground just so you come over in a deep knee bend. Bring the knees right together. So here, curve the lower back. So actually every vertebrae of the spine moves in. Put your hands on your knees. As you move the whole lower back in, curl the heart up. You can lift the chin even a little bit. Hug the outer hips together until you feel the low belly lifting slightly. And then stretch the arms straighter. And you can just stay here, or you can take the arms out at shoulder height, palms down, or you can turn the palms toward each other and stretch them up. I'm more focused on the work in the legs and and the positioning of the spine here. So if anything today, you get to have a little more exaggerated curve. And then pushing into your heels, inhale, come up. Exhale, release. For your one, inhale, step the feet really wide apart. Put your hands on your hips. Spin your left foot in 60 degrees, rotate your right leg and foot out. So this builds strength in the back muscles. Part of what it does is build strength in the back muscles, which is really helpful and necessary in the forward bends. So with your back heel on the ground, spin your back hip more forward. Rotate the left ribs forward. Release your arm up. Keep your hands on your hips, or release your arms, turn your mouth out, and sweep the arms overhead. Now wherever you are with the arms, lift the torso up. Curve every vertebrae of the spine deeper into the body, just like you did in the previous chair position. And then like that, exhale, bend the front knee. Sit down as you bend the front knee, squeeze the outer hips together. So you're narrowing the outer edges of the hips in toward the midline. Curve the heart, lift the chin a little bit, stretch up. Push into both heels, inhale, stretch the front leg straighter. Exhale, the arms down, rotate the feet, come back to center. Spin the right leg and foot in, second side. Rotate the left leg and foot out. Move the left foot a little bit to the left as you need to be able to swivel your right hip more forward. Push the top of the right thigh bone back to anchor your back heel. And then lift every vertebrae of the spine in. It's not always the way we do this pose, but today, exaggerate almost a back bend shape here. And then keep the hands in the hips, arms at your sides, spin the arms out, and then take the arms overhead. Exhale, bend your front knee deeply. Push your back heel down. As you bend your front knee and push your back heel down, squeeze the hips together. So that fires up the glute muscles. Rotate the outside edge of the right side of the torso. And then every vertebrae of the spine. Lift the heart, lift the chin, stretch the arms up if they're overhead. And then pushing into both heels. Use your legs, inhale, come up. Exhale, turn the feet, lower the arms. Inhale, feet together. Parsvottanasana, extended side angle. Inhale, step the feet apart. Put your hands on your hips. Spin your left foot in, right leg and foot out. I said extended side angle, didn't I? I think so. Pyramid pose, I meant. So as you plant your back heel, turn the left hip and the left side of the rib cage forward. So it's just like warrior one, but you're in a slightly narrower stance. Micro bend your front knee and engage the muscles on your front thigh. Squeeze your outer hips together, so it's just like in chair pose. And now with the hands on the hips, curve the center of the heart up. So every vertebrae in the spine moves in. Keep that curve, shift your hips back, exhale, come halfway forward. At the halfway point, hug your right hip in, spin your left ribs down. Scoop up your low belly, but make sure you've got a curve in your lower back. So the lower back is curving down toward the ground. If you have the curve in the lower back and you feel minimal sensation on the back of the right thigh, that's giving you permission to go further. To go further, lightly draw the low belly back. Put your hands on your right leg and slide your hands down to hold your shin or your ankle. You could also take your fingertips to the ground if that works. Plant your back, push down into the right foot. Hug your hips, the outer hips, and scoop the low belly slightly back away from the top of the thigh, making sure that the back again is staying long. Fold over. Now push into your heels, lift your chin, put your hands on your hips, inhale up, exhale feet, and then second side. Spin your right foot in, swing your left-legged foot out. Make your back leg strong and straight, and take the outside edge of your right hip and your right ribs forward. Keeping your back leg strong and straight and your back heel anchored, hug your outer hips in. Curl the heart. As you curl the heart up, every vertebrae of the spine moves in. So with your front thigh firm, shift your hips back, keeping your back heel heavy, and bring your torso halfway forward. As you come halfway forward, you want to tip the lower back in, so the lower back is not rounding up toward the sky. And then squeeze the outer hips together, draw the low belly slightly back, and you're forward bending. You have permission to go further. If the lower back is in, your chest is up, and you have minimal sensation on the back of the left thigh. In that case, put your hands on your on your left leg, and slide them down as you fold over. As you fold over, lengthen the torso. Squeeze the outer hips together. Lift the low belly, and lengthen the torso all the way over your front leg. Now push into both heels. Lift your chin. Put your hands on your hips. Inhale, come up. Exhale, turn the feet. Inhale, step or hop the feet together. Standing, straight leg forward bend. Standing, wide-legged forward bend. Prasarita Padottanasana. So inhale, step your feet wide apart. Take the heels out a little wider than the toes, unless forward bending is really in your body's capacity, in which case you could have the feet more parallel. Put your hands on your hips. Firm the muscles on the fronts of the thighs, lifting your kneecaps up. From there, hinge from the tops of the legs. Fold over about halfway. Bend the knees as you need to. Put your fingertips on the ground. Take the heels out. If your knees are bent, or if your legs are straight, bring your sitting bones right over your heels. Curve your lower back. As you curve the lower back in, squeeze the outer hips together to fire the glutes and to tilt the sitting bones slightly toward the heels. Scoop up the low belly. Observe. Feel the sensations, feel the shape and your body in it. And then accepting the sensations, perhaps stretch the legs straight if the legs are bent. And perhaps walk the hands out away from you, keeping the hips over the heels, the lower back curving in. Squeeze the outer hips together and link the sitting bones to the heels, so the sitting bones aren't just flailing or splaying up toward the sky, but they're connected to the heels. Stretch the arms out. One more breath. Walk the hands back in. Heel toe the feet in. 1 or 2 times. And then bend the knees, put your hands on your hips, lift your chin. Inhale, come up. Exhale, feet together. Face the short edge of the mat. Separate the feet. Standing forward end here. Uttanasana. Let's get a little closer together if the muscles on the backs of the legs are warmer. Firm the muscles on the fronts of the thighs. Exhale, bend the knees, fold all the way over. As you bend the knees and fold all the way over, really lay your torso against your legs. So you've bent the knees, the pelvis has tilted over, and your torso and your thighs are in contact. Keeping that contact, take your heels a little wider and push the heels apart. Do that especially on the leg that earlier in the practice we noticed didn't touch the back of the leg didn't touch the ground when the legs were extended. Hug the outer hips in. Again, especially on the side of the leg that was reluctant to touch the ground. Lengthen the torso, release it. Now when you stretch the legs straighter, I want you to keep the torso and the thighs together. So it's less important that your legs are straight. It's more important today that your torso and your thighs are together. So you can place your hands on your Achilles tendons and lightly hold with your arms to keep the torso and the legs together as you stretch the legs a little straighter. Pulsing here might be useful, mindfully pulsing. So you're not just bouncing, but you're moving the legs straighter and bending them thoughtfully. Hug the outer hips in. The more capacity you have in the forward bends, the more you hug your outer hips in. Tilt the sitting bones toward the heels and lift up the low belly. One more breath. So from here, close your downward facing dog. Bend the knees, place the hands flat. Step back if you're doing downward facing dog. Into extended child's pose with the arms forward. In extended child's pose, big toes touch, knees apart. Sit toward the heels, reach the arms forward. In down dog, evenly spread out the fingers. Press into the inner edges of the hands. Bend the elbows, spin the triceps toward the face so that the points of the elbows rotate toward the baby toes on the feet. Push into the hands, pull the hips back. As you pull the hips back, make sure that the lower back again is curling in and keeping the curl of the lower back of the body to the front of the body. Lift the low belly slightly back. Hug the outer hips together. One more breath. And then exhale. Bend the knees to the ground. Lie all the way down on your stomach. Take a moment here. So we're going to do a couple of leg raises. So Shalabhasana variations. So place your hands by your thighs with the palms turned up. If it works for your chin on the ground, and just slightly inch your chin forward. If that's comfortable on your throat or on your neck, then bring your forehead to the floor. So the first one, we're going to lift just the head and chest. So you can keep your arms at your sides, palms up, or you could interlace your hands behind your back. Lift up the low belly, firm the muscles of the buttocks, and extend the feet back away from you and press down into the tops of the feet. Then, inhale, curl the center of the heart up, lift the hands, reach the fingers toward the feet. If your hands are interlaced behind you, keep a little bend in the elbows, and then curl the back. The spine moves in, and that lifts the chest forward and up. Exhale, come down. Change the interlacing of the fingers. Lift the tops of the shoulders away from the ground. Scoop up the low belly. Firm the muscles of the buttocks and press the tops of the feet down. Inhale, lift up. Breathe. Keep a little bend in the elbows. Observe the effort. Observe the sensations. Accept the effort, but perhaps ease off a little bit, especially the acceptance. And then there's still release in the capacity to soften the face and to talk when you're in the pose. And then exhale and come down. Release your hands. Rotate the legs so that you're right on the center of the thighs, or even slightly more to the outsides of the thighs. Walk the fingertips down toward the feet with the palms up. Again, forehead or chin on the ground. Lift up the low belly. Engage the muscles of the buttocks. Lift the tops of the shoulders. So in a moment, we're going to lift the head, chest, and the legs. If it's better for your body to lift the head, chest, and one leg the first time, and the head, chest, and the other leg the second time, then do that. If lifting both legs makes sense, then you'll do that both times. So when you're ready, up you come. Lift the tops of the thighs, one or both. Curl the heart away from the ground. Lift the chin, feel the work in the body. So we're asking the backs of the thighs and the buttocks to work. Lift the heart. And then exhale, come down. Again, turn the thighs in so you're right on the center or the outer edges of the thighs. Press the big toe side of the feet down. Engage the buttocks, lift up the low belly, walk your fingers to your feet, and then the second time, when you're ready, up you come. Other leg or both legs, head and chest, hands, reach your hand, curl the chest up, and then exhale and come down. Place the hands under the shoulders. Press onto the hands and knees just so that you can then turn over onto your back for bridge pose, Setu Bandha. So from here, knees bent, feet on the ground. Tuck the tops of the shoulders underneath you. With the knees bent, take the heels a little wider. Start in a position where the lower back is curled off the floor. Lift the chin a little bit so that there's also a curve in the back of the neck. And then bend the elbows so your fingers point straight up toward the sky. Have the elbows just a bit away from the sides of the body. Press the tops of the upper arm bones down. Push the heels down and the big toe sides of the feet. Inhale, lift the hips up. Again, scoop the tops of the shoulders under. Push the top of the upper arm bones down and even a little bit toward the ears. Make the top of the arms heavier than the elbows. Press the heels down, keep the knees pointing straight forward, and lift the hips strongly up. As you lift the hips strongly up, lift the outer edges of the hips higher than the inner thighs. Breathe. Observe. If you're having difficulty firing the muscles on the backs of the legs and the buttocks, pull your heels toward your feet. Pull your heels toward your shoulders. Lift the hips. And then keeping the engagement slowly, without flattening the curve in the lower back, come down. Pause. We'll repeat that. So this time you could catch both edges of your mat. If catching either the backs of your heels or around the front of the ankles works for you, you could do that. Take the heels a little wider. Hold on to the edges of the mat. Push into the center of the heels, the big toe sides of the feet. Curve the lower back. Curve the back of the neck. And then lift the hips up. As you lift the hips up, keep the knees pointing straight out away from you so they're not splaying to the sides or knocking in together. If you're going to choose, have them come in a little closer together rather than splay out. Push the heels down. Rotate the upper arms out and tuck the tops of the shoulders under. Gripping the mat. Push the tops of the arms down. Press the heels firmly into the floor and lift the outside of the hips up. Bring the chest toward the chin. Micro bend the elbows. Push the tops of the arms down, lift up. Keep the curve in the lower back. Keep the engagement. And the muscles in the backs of the legs and the buttocks slowly come down. Stretch the arms to the sides with the palms up. Lift the hips. Shift the hips a little bit to the right. Draw the knees toward the chest. And then letting your right shoulder lift, take the knees all the way down to the ground of the left. Now curve the lower back and line up your knees so that the right knee is directly over the left. So again, your right shoulder's off the ground. With the right shoulder off the ground, now twist the torso from left to right. Because the knees are down, you can have your shoulder up. If the knees are up, then the shoulder's down, so that there's one of those two options are anchoring you. And then twisting the torso to the right. You can keep the right elbow bent and the right hand against the right ribs, or you could stretch the arm out again. The shoulder's not touching necessarily, but you're moving it in that direction. More significantly, move every of the spine into the body, and then keeping that twist. One more breath. Head to center. Inhale, lift the legs up. Readjust. And then the second, lift the hips up, scoot the hips to the left. Draw the knees in a little bit, squeeze the legs together, and then roll all the way over onto your left side, lining up your knees. Arch the spine. You can put your hand on your left thigh, keep the left knee over the right knee, and slide back. Arching the back, twist the torso from right to left. Drawing the left side of the ribcage toward the ground. Perhaps reach out through your left hand. Observe. So that the observation brings you closer to the experience. Create an inner environment of acceptance that softens and opens you to receive the pose, or to receive the adjustments that you need to make it available. Release tension, especially across the face. And then from here we're coming up to sit. So take your left hand, bring it across to the right side of the body, push onto your right hand, come up with one last pose to finish. A version of Paschimottanasana. So depending on your setup at home, I'd like you to have your feet on the floor, and if your heels are unhappy on hardwood floor of some sort, you could take a blanket out and put that on your heels, so you can put the blanket on the ground in front of you. Back a bit. So we're doing of Paschimottanasana with the knees bent. So bend your knees. Flex your feet so you're right on the heels could be on the blanket because we're going to slide perhaps. Walk the sitting bones a little bit back. If you've got a hamstring insertion issue, then don't do that so much. If you don't know what that is, you don't have it. Then hold. So you could wrap your forearms around the backs of your thighs. You could hold the outsides of the calves or even the outsides of the feet. Mostly what you're doing here is you're bringing again your knees, your torso and your torso together. Sorry, your thighs and your torso together. And you're going to keep them together as you come forward. So with the feet flexed and the torso and the thighs together, stretch the legs a little straighter. Pause. Breathe. So again, the lower back, the pelvis is tipped forward. And the lower back is long, but moving in to the front of the body. Lift the chest. So every vertebrae, there's a sense, and it's not fully accurate, but there's a sense that every vertebrae in the spine is moving toward the front of the body. Perhaps stretch the legs a little straighter. That's not necessary. If you're quite straight, then you might want to hold that outside. And again, you're keeping the torso, you're prioritizing torso and legs together over legs straight. Good, one more breath. And then pull the legs back in, the heels in. Release the legs, stretch them straight for a moment. Final relaxation, Shavasana. So you can take a blanket for your head, or you can roll the blanket for behind your knees if your lower back feels some strain in the practice. And hopefully that's not the case. And if it is, then that's something to consider in terms of over effort. We really want to feel it across the entire back, because there is some work in the back in the forward bends, and then definitely in the muscles of the backs of the thighs. So as you come onto your back, support the backs of the legs as needed, support the back of the head with the blanket. Lie down. And in the process of coming down onto your back, make sure that you're observing the placement of the body and setting yourself up so that you're placed as evenly as possible, side to side. That means that each leg and each arm are equal distance from the midline as their mate. If it's more comfortable for your body to bend the elbows and place the palms on the torso, do that. And we're gonna do just a moment or two of breath practice here. So if it's more available for you to do that with the hands on the body, then put the hands, so one hand's around the navel, one hand's around the center of the chest. Everybody close the eyes. Observe the position, observe the sensations of the body, and observe the breath. Accepting the breath as completely as possible. Inhale into the hand on the belly, and then the hand on the chest. Exhale from the hand on the chest, and then away from the hand on the belly. Inhale, belly, chest. Exhale, chest, belly. Keep the jaw released and the face soft. A couple more times like this. And perhaps allowing some expansion of the breath. So any constriction from the practice gets smoothed out here with the invitation of a slightly longer breath in and out. One more time. At this exhalation's end, release the arms into a comfortable position. If your arms are at your sides, rotate the arms so that the palms are up, or keep the hands on the body and just adjust in any way to make them more comfortable. Observe. Observe the totality of the experience, body against the earth, breath against the body, sensations within both.
accept the invitation to relax. Like really let it in. And release completely, especially the muscles of the sense organs. Relax the tongue, the edge of the nostrils, the eyes, skin across the face. Release the ears. Rest, completely released into the world around you. Observing the movement of the breath. And one at a time, bend the knees, place the feet on the ground. And supporting the head with the right arm as needed, roll completely to your right side and pause there. And then using your left hand, press yourself up. Come to sit. Sitting well. Close your eyes. Join your hands together at your heart.